ESPN Radio Sports Center.
With us, Mike and Mike in the morning on ESPN Radio. Every hour starts with Sports Center. Golic begins this one last night in Miami.
Miami gets the win in Game 1, 92-84 over the Mavericks. LeBron goes for 24, Wade for 22. The big three have 65 in this one. But at the end of the game, well, you recognize the familiar names ending it.
Wade accelerates across midcourt. Sabonis dunk. Good night. Miami's going to get Game 1. Timeout Dallas, and they're on their feet in South Florida.
For Dallas, Dirk goes for a game-high 27. He does tear a tendon in his left middle finger, not his shooting hand, so offensively he should be fine there. And as far as the NHL Stanley Cup Finals, they begin tonight with Boston at Vancouver. Again, Game 1 winners in the Stanley Cup Finals go on to win the finals 77% of the time, and you got to love Stanley Cup Final hockey. You can only hope there's some overtime.
Baseball, American League, Rays beat the Rangers 5-4. Evan Longoria go-ahead 2-run homer in the 8th. White Sox beat the Red Sox 10-7, 4 out of 5 on the night for Alexi Ramirez drove in 3. Royals beat the Angels 7-3. Yankees over the A's 10-3. Curtis Granderson a homer and 4 RBIs. National League, Nationals beat the Phillies 10-2. Cliff Lee roughed up, gave up 6 earned runs and 5 1/3. Pirates beat the Mets 5-1. Astros over the Cubs 7-3. And Matt Kemp a homer and 4 RBIs as the Dodgers beat the Rockies 8-2. And that is SportsCenter, brought to you by Subway.
The best deal around, the new Subway $3 flatbread breakfast combo. A tasty, toasty 6-inch flatbread breakfast sandwich like the Crispalicious bacon, egg, and cheese, and a 16-ounce cup of freshly brewed Seattle's best coffee. The new Subway $3 flatbread breakfast combo. Subway, eat fresh.
And it's all right, it's all right, it's all right, it's all right.
It's certainly more than all right with us that you've chosen to start your day with us. Mike and Mike in the morning on ESPN Radio and live on TV on ESPN2. We're presented by Progressive Insurance, and all our guests appear on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline, and those will include Timmy Legler live in a half an hour. We will have Jalen Rose in our studio, 9:15 Eastern. Hubie Brown, the Hall of Famer, 9:30 Eastern time, and X's and O's with Dave Miller in a second. But first, going through the game from last night all morning long here, let you hear from some of the winners and the losers. Start with Eric Spoelstra, Heat coach. Not an easy night.
It's tough. That's a very skilled offensive team. We didn't get into much of an offensive flow the entire game. We've proven in this playoff that sometimes we have to win when it's not necessarily pretty.
And Mike, that to me has been the most impressive thing about this team.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, when you have 3 of the 4 best players on the court, good things can happen to you. And we talked a lot about Miami's defense, but let's give a little credit. Dallas playing some defense as well. Normally Dallas holds a team to 92 points and 38% shooting. They're going to win. But it just turned out Miami's defense was a little stronger in stopping Dallas, especially the bench. The bench for Dallas really did not come through.
Yeah, and Rick Carlisle not happy with his team's offensive performance.
We got to play better, just overall. We got to be more opportunistic. Our shot making's got to be better, and our rebounding's got to be better. We're minus 10 on offensive boards. It's 10 more opportunities that they have the ball and we don't.
So those are the coaches in the finals. Here's our coach. He covers basketball for ESPN LA 710 in Los Angeles and has become sort of a folk hero by appearing on our show regularly throughout these NBA playoffs. Does a great job and is now here in our studio, former NBA assistant coach Dave Miller. Welcome, Dave. It's good to have you here.
Thanks, guys.
So let's do what you do best, and let's start Xing and O'ing this thing. I asked this question to our reporter who covers the Heat, and I'll ask it to you. Who gets the most credit for the Heat being as defense-oriented as they are? When we think of basketball, we think about high-flying and LeBron and Wade going out on the fast break and slam dunks. That's not what they do. They do the dirty work on the defensive end. Who gets the credit for that?
Well, the coach does, because from day one in training camp, this is a coach in Eric Spoelstra that said defense is going to win championships. And while the Heat struggled all along offensively, it's that core of helping each other, having 5 guys on a string. And what I saw last night was proactive. It reminds me of that Ludacris song, "When I Move, You Move," just like that. That's how I used to teach defense with Byron Scott. Now, it doesn't hurt that you have Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, and other role players that may not be good offensively, but they understand to help the helper. It's like if we're playing defense, if you get beat by your man, the next closest man is Golic. He's got to stop the ball, because remember this in the game of basketball. Your man isn't the most important. It's the man with the ball. But what the Heat are doing unbelievably well the last month, when Golic goes to help your man, I'm second from the pass. I have to help the helper. That's what they're doing well.
So what does Dallas have to do to combat that?
Well, Dallas has got to move the ball, and going into this series, they moved the ball. It was like a clinic goal. Like, they're crisp. They had great spacing. Last night, when they moved the basketball, all of a sudden they drove, and there was a defender. They saw traffic. Make an extra pass. Try and get the Heat to give a third or fourth effort, because right now the Heat are giving you that second and third effort.
Dave Miller is here. How about the buy-in? You've coached on the NBA level. How hard do you think it is, or how hard traditionally has it been for a coach, particularly Eric Spoelstra, who doesn't have all the stripes on his sleeve yet, to get guys like LeBron James and Dwayne Wade to buy in to being defense first?
Well, I don't think it's hard at all, because remember, on the couple stairways above, you have Pat Riley looking down, and he's a disciple, and you know you have to defend and you have to rebound to win rings. Then you add Dwayne Wade. The great players police their own teams. LeBron right now is the closer. He's the best player, but this is still Dwayne Wade's team in the locker room. So you've got him, and when your leader buys in, it's easy for the other two, and then the other 9 will follow.
How about the benches in this? I mean, Miami has only outscored the opponent's bench 8 times out of 98 games. Why the difference in this one? Why were they able to do it here and the Dallas bench not so much?
Well, I thought that was the key to the game, Golic, because when you look at that second unit, the bench, Barea, Terry, Peja Stojakovic, Dirk is usually in there with them, and Haywood. In the playoffs, they are scoring 57% on three-point shots. Last night, it was an aberration. They couldn't get it going. Quite frankly, they missed shots. The offense wasn't that bad because they missed shots. The biggest thing was they only got 67 shots, and that's because they gave up 16 offensive rebounds. In the playoffs, it's about possessions, and they're magnified.
Mike and Mike, Dave Miller is in our studio, Xing and Oing what we're seeing in the NBA Finals. So let's start working towards adjustments here, because, you know, some of us, Golic is kind of yelling at me this morning, but I walked in this morning saying to myself, if you're rooting for Dallas, and I am, or at minimum you're rooting for a long series, and certainly I am that, I didn't like what I saw last night. All the things that scared me the most about Miami in this series came true last night. On the defensive end, and Golic is telling me I'm making far too big a deal about this. Those guys won't shoot as badly again. Nowitzki, I don't know. I saw things last night that I'm not sure the Mavericks can overcome. Am I wrong?
Well, I think, no. I think, yes, you are wrong, because I think they can overcome it. I don't necessarily know if Miami will shoot the 3 as well as they did, because remember, what was their Achilles heel in Miami all season long? Perimeter shooting.
Right.
You take away all their paint scores, all their easy baskets, and then they weren't able to close and execute at the end. Now they're doing that. But I don't think J.J. Barea is going to go 1 for 8. I don't think Peja is going to go 0 for 3. Those two guys were 1 for 11 and scored 2 points. Jason Terry, who is the second scorer, last night he scores 12 points in the first half and has a goose egg in the second. I think that Dallas needs to get easy scores. They can't have 67 shots. They've got to push the tempo. I think this is still a long series.
I saw one situation where Barea was guarding LeBron man to man.
Yeah.
And it was just, at one point, LeBron just kind of holding the ball and was like, okay, enough of this, and just took the shot over him and made it. It was kind of funny. How about Dirk? Dirk scores 27. Dirk tears the finger in a non-shooting hand on his middle finger of his left hand. Talk about the effect of that offensively and defensively.
Well, there'll be no effect offensively, because you know when you shoot the basketball, this is your shooting hand. This is your guide hand. And really, what you shoot the basketball with is your legs. All this is a fishing pole. The ball sets in there like a golf tee. You bend and you extend. This hand right here keeps the ball in place so it doesn't fall when you get that elevation. It will have no effect on him. I'm a little disappointed in Dirk's mental toughness to even bring that out. Nobody should have known about that, because defensively, I'm going to be slapping, I'm going to be hitting just to make him uncomfortable. Defensively, it shouldn't bother him at all, because he doesn't have active hands. And when you rebound with 2 hands, not 1.
I hope everybody's okay with the fact that people might slap at Dirk's hand and nobody will get offended. How can you play that way and be so mean?
This came up with Rajon Rondo's elbow, you'll recall, back during that series.
Yeah.
This came up with Andrew Bynum, too.
Yeah,
Remember, we wanted to hurt people in a good way. Greenberg said, no, this is tennis. Let's be polite.
You know, you don't want to hurt people in any way. You
Why
want
not?
to defeat people.
Well,
because the game, it's not a game of hurting people. It's a game of winning. It's a game of winning and
That's
losing.
why some watch and some play and coach.